All right, so we are recording.
Can you all hear me okay?
We can hear you.
Okay. All right, great. Well, good morning, everyone. The time is 10:03, so we'll go ahead and get started. First of all, thank you to our AdCom reps for hosting us today, and thank you to those of you who are online. My apologies for not being there in person today. I definitely always love seeing everyone in person, just too many conflicts today after returning from leave. So thanks for being here, everyone. So let's go ahead and officially call the meeting to order at 10:04. Reminder to everyone to please sign in. I believe Jennifer put a link in the chat to sign in. And Jennifer, I'll go ahead and turn it over to you for roll call.
All right. So good morning, everybody. And
Actor had no impact on financial
statements. Scott James.
If there was something that popped, it was more significant, and you adopted it in that year when that arrangement occurred.
Okay. Sorry about that. And I'm running two computers here, so forgive me for doing multitasking. Okay, CCI, Scott James, Tina Powell, Julie Nelson, or Allison P. Unison?
Tina's here.
Hi, Tina. CML, Jeremy Shupback. Okay, accessibility, Cheryl Garcia. Morning, Cheryl. At large, Chad Weber. Okay, VESP, Tim Kunkelman.
Hi, this is Tim. I'm here. I also wanted to let you know I do have to leave early today. My apologies for that.
No problem. Good morning. VESP, Sean Ward, Entrado.
Mary Staples is here for Entrado in replace of Sean.
Thank you, Mary, and welcome.
Thank you.
I elect Jeff Winkleman, Lumen.
Present.
Morning. I elect Darla Joseph, NNTC. Okay. Wireless rep, Jenny Santana from T-Mobile.
Good morning. This is Jenny. I'm here.
Good morning. Wireless rep, Ryan Hoke or Mary Graham from Viero.
Mary's here.
Good morning. CLEC VoIP, Cindy Hartkop. I think I saw her on this list.
Cindy's here.
Good morning. CLEC VoIP, Jay Slater or Erica Stevens, bandwidth.
Jay Slater is here.
Good morning.
Morning.
911, Jody Chin. She emailed and said she wasn't going to be here. 911, Danette Martin, boarding room. 911, Cindy Castillo, Grand Junction.
I'm here. Thank you.
Good morning. 911, Kimberly Colt, Valerie Turner, or Tracy Oldmeyer, Perdita.
This is Kimberly and I'm on.
Good morning. 911, Jackie Reynolds. Here. Thanks for hosting, Jackie. You're welcome. You guys who aren't here in person, this is a beautiful building. You're missing out. 911, Beth Dobransky, Eagle County.
Good morning. I'm here.
Good morning. 911, Militia Libran, Caitlin Gockley, or Paula Null from Sterling. (911) Jeff Irvin, Jeffco Broomfield.
Jeff Irvin is here.
Good morning. 911, Ronnie Magruder, Rio Blanco County. (911) Deanie Shin or Shannon Brent, Douglas County.
Good morning. Deanie is here.
Good morning. 911 Andrew Dameron or Jody. I know Jody's here. 911 Michael Brewer or Kevin Beegert from Jeffcom.
This is Mike Brewer here. Good morning.
Good morning. 911 Tina Bonetta or Scott Newman from City of Aurora.
Morning, Scott Newman's here.
Good morning. 911 Kathy Rayleigh, Arapahoe County. Kathy's here. Morning. 911 Matt Gage, Alex Wall from NETSA.
Good morning, Matt here. Alex here too.
Morning to you both. 911, Carl Stevens or Tom Holman from Garfield County.
Carl Stevens is here.
Good morning. 911, Patty West or Christine Mesa from Bretza.
Patty's on.
Excellent. Good morning. And Madam Chair, we do have a quorum here.
Thank you. All right. Welcome to any newcomers to the meeting. For those of you that might be new, please know that we do welcome your input and we want to hear your voice. So don't let being new to the group intimidate you into silence. We definitely want to hear what you have to say throughout the meeting. So, all right, moving on. Did everyone get a chance to review last meeting's minutes from March 14th? Do we have any further discussion on those minutes from that meeting? Hearing none, and that being said, I'll entertain a motion to approve those minutes as written. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
We need a motion.
Oh,
Sorry.
Motion to approve.
Jeff
Irvin moves to accept.
So we have Jeff and Jeff.
a motion and a second. Okay. All right.
Now we can vote.
All right. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And any opposed?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Hearing none, the minutes stand approved as written. All right, moving on, the first order of business on the agenda, we have our standing reports. So just a reminder that we're not reading those reports during the meeting, but if you have points to highlight or if anyone has questions, please do so when we get to that specific report. And then just a reminder to submit your reports before the meeting so that they can always be reviewed ahead of time. So starting with the PUC update, Jennifer.
Okay, so I don't have a ton to highlight out of what is written. The proceedings are proceeding, and there's information on those as well in the staff update. Yeah, I don't have anything else to highlight unless people have questions on what's in the written report.
Jennifer, I'll just add one thing. So CenturyLink is required as the BESP to file a contingency plan every year. They did file that. They filed it in an older proceeding number, so I've asked him to refile it in the new proceeding number. And that proceeding number, just a moment, is the correct proceeding number is 23M as in Mary -0236 T as in Tom. They filed it in the older proceeding, which was 18M as in Mary -0294 T as in Tom. There is both a public version and a confidential version. To see the confidential version, you will need to file an NDA in that proceeding. But you can start by looking at the public version. Just the main difference is that it has phone numbers for notifications of outages and for condition 4 routing blacked out for security reasons. But I just want to let people know that that had been filed.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. And the BESP report.
This is Tim. I don't have anything to add.
Tim, thank you. Anybody from Intrado?
No, we have nothing to add. Thank you.
Bylaws Committee, Kimberly.
This is Kimberly. No updates. The bylaws committee did not have anything to review.
And Legislative Committee, Jackie.
Sorry, I was looking for my unmute button. Good morning, everyone. I didn't write a report because I knew that our bill was moving through and didn't want to have not updated information. Can I share my screen by any chance?
Yeah, let me stop sharing and then you can share.
Okay. Okay. Senate Bill 139 passed the House yesterday by a vote of 46 to 17. However, there were 2 amendments added, and I'm showing one of the amendments. I didn't know anything about this amendment. It was a surprise to me. However, I didn't see anything that hurt anyone in this amendment. And basically, it's just to make sure that training includes education campaigns that must use plain language that avoids metaphors and spells out or avoids the use of acronyms in order to allow easier translation in a public education campaign languages other than English. So like I said, I didn't see any harm in it. Like I said, I didn't know about it until it was brought up in front of the House. And then the other amendment that was added last minute was just a transparency and added a little bit more language to the one that was done in the Senate about how the enterprise board will be financially transparent. Are there any questions about those?
Hi, Jackie.
Okay. Yes.
Daryl. I just found out about that first, this is the first time I've seen that second amendment. That first amendment I found out about right before it got voted on. And my understanding is that the source of that was the emergency notification system report that Steve Boulder did at the behest of the legislature last year. It was the same senator or representative that sponsored that other bill calling for that report that asked for this language.
That's correct. And Michael, I see you have your hand up.
Yeah, just regarding the legislation with that added amendment, even as benign as it is, does that mean that it has to go back to the Senate, or how will that be conferenced?
You know, I don't really know the answer to that question, but I believe this means it's passed and all the amendments are done, but I do not know that for sure.
Jackie and Michael, it actually did go back to the Senate yesterday and it was repassed.
Thanks, Daryl.
Thanks, Daryl. I appreciate that. Patty?
Yeah, I was just wondering, so what happens next?
It's my understanding it goes to the governor's office to be signed.
But I mean, after that, who will it be up to, or to get the ball rolling, or for the governor to make selections, et cetera, et cetera?
Daryl, go ahead.
Yeah. So the bill puts the enterprise under DORA, so it'll be DORA's job to basically make sure that the board gets set up. There is a website that the state uses to fill governor-appointed positions. So once these positions are set up in that website, we will make sure that everyone knows how to go in and apply to be on the board. I've already gotten one inquiry yesterday from a 911 professional who was interested in applying. So as soon as that's available, we'll make sure that everyone is aware of the process of putting their name in to be on the board. And then it's up to the governor's office to choose, but the governor's office will need to choose based on the criteria that are in the bill, which means at least 2 people from smaller agencies, at least 2 people from larger agencies, and the other positions that are listed in the bill.
Thank you, Daryl. I knew you had more detail. All I had was Dora. Joe, go ahead.
It's Dora, but there's a website for applications, and it's kind of a whole process.
Yeah, and the bill provides it's an equal number of representatives from small authorities, rural authorities, from the large Front Range authorities, and there's also the potential for the groups to nominate from among their members somebody they want to represent, those groups of authorities. That would be up to the authorities to decide if they want to do that or just want to nominate somebody for themselves.
Jody, Kathy's got her hand up here in the room.
Kathy, go ahead.
Are there term limits on the board?
I'm
I don't believe there are in the bill.
I don't remember terms you mentioned in the bill.
No.
Okay. The other, of course, we know that we already had the House bill passed that made us first responders. Thank you, Michael Brewer, for all your help on that. And Senate Bill 52, which would fund the Resource Center from partially fund the Resource Center from general funds, did not move forward. And there's an article in the Sun that was sent out to the Legislative Committee. I don't know if we want to send it out to the entire group, about the Colorado's budget. And so that's what caused them not wanting to fund more things. All that being said, this was a rough legislative session for me. And I kind of wanted to address that a little bit here. I've been the chair now since I think 2019, somewhere in there. And we were really successful and worked really coherently together, and did some great things in 2020. We passed a bill that created the 911 statewide surcharge. And in that bill, it also, looking for your email, Daryl, the numbers. I'm looking for the numbers. Anyway, I want to point out these numbers that by working together, what we've accomplished. Hang on just one second. Here we go. So from over the last 3 years, because of the creation of this bill that we were able to work together on and get passed, the total comes to almost $59 million in dollars for 911. And I have further information and data on that if anybody would like to see it, but it was because the change in the statute for the prepaid and the change in the statute, obviously, for the statewide 911 surcharge, which pays for the foundation of Next Generation 911. And so, I think this group should be really proud of that. And this group worked really hard together on that to create something very beneficial for the state, all the 911 centers in the state. I think too that while there was some opposition to that bill, it didn't, well, how am I going to put this? I felt like that I had been thrown under the bus, so to speak, after the task force voted on Senate Bill 139 to go forward. And then there was misinformation spread throughout and outright untruths, which was very disappointing to me. And I know I'm not a very political person, and I know that our politics sometimes degrade into misinformation. And outright untruths, and it's just not who I am or who I want to be. And so I've tried to remain very transparent. And while everyone makes mistakes, and I'm sure I have made numerous, I just really felt this was really rough on me, that I felt like I'd lost all the support behind it, and was sitting there at some points going, what am I doing? Why am I doing this? Even though this task force had voted for me to move forward. So that being said, I am willing to continue to be chair of this committee. However, I'm only going to concentrate on misuse of 911. Kathy Riley, 3 years ago, I think now, brought forward the idea of misuse of 911. As we know, last year it did not. We're not able to get a good bill, and it did not pass. However, we do now have support from the Police Chiefs Association, and I would certainly like to move forward with that. However, anything that I'm just not willing to stick my neck out on the line as a professional and have to defend against misinformation on future bills. So with that being said, I do want to thank all the committee, because there were numerous people who worked on all these bills who've had their input, and I don't want those people to go unacknowledged, because it wasn't just a few of us. It was numerous people who put their thoughts, and their wording and their participation into these bills. And I really, really appreciate that participation. And I think that we can do great things with 911 in this committee when we all participate. With that being said, I'm going to leave it up to the task force if they want me to still head this committee, or if they would like to choose someone else. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Jackie. Help me with this, Jennifer, because this part is new for me. So do I make a motion, Jackie, in as chair of that group after everything's said, or?
Well, the chairs serve at the pleasure of the chairperson. So you don't have to make a decision here. And if Jackie is willing and you still want Jackie to serve as chair, then that is your decision and your discretion.
Okay. Well, I think Jackie does a great job. So if it's my decision, I would like her to stay. I also welcome any conversation that anybody would like to have around it after that she is.
Well, this is Jennifer. I would also back you up, Jody, and say a sincere thanks of appreciation to Jackie for herding the tigers, as I have put it before, in this legislative session. I have some thoughts to share later in the meeting, but for this specifically, I would like to thank Jackie for the work that she has done, I would say mostly unpaid and on a volunteer basis, to advance 911 in the state of Colorado. And I want to thank the legislative committee for also doing that work, for being available to testify often at a moment's notice or on short notice. We've had some newcomers to the legislative committee this season, and they have jumped in to help. And I have said it before, and I will say it again, we are stronger when we come together to discuss the issues that are important to us in these fashion. And Jackie, I think, did a great job of managing those discussions. So thank you very much to Jackie and the legislative committee.
Thank you, Jennifer. I just do want to point out, I have been paid. There are 3 boards who support me in this effort.
Well, probably not enough.
Thank you.
Hey, Jennifer, this is Beth, and I just want to echo your comments. Well said. Jackie, thank you for everything you do.
Joe, you have your hand up?
I do. I want to say that Jackie, I think, does a good job on this. It's a lot of work, a lot of having to meet with people and keep tracks of things, and a lot of legwork and time that has to go into it. I don't envy her for the position. I don't understand her to have resigned, so that unless somebody wants to move to elect somebody else to the position, I don't think we really have anything to decide on.
Great. Scott, go ahead.
Thanks, Jody. And just wanted to echo again what everybody else said. I have not been able to participate hardly at all in the legislative committee for a little over a year now because those meetings overlap one of my boss's standings meetings. But I will just say the just sheer effort of trying to coordinate the schedules of people on the committee and then coordinate with the schedules of everybody at the legislature and all the back and forth. Just Jackie, you have so much energy and I don't know how you do it, but I really do appreciate all of your effort that you put into that.
Here, here.
Well, thank you all so much. And like I said, at our next meetings, we'll kind of do a debrief and work towards what we want to, how we want to move forward on misuse. We do have the language that the DA's council is in favor of. Woohoo! So we've got some hurdles on that bill, and hopefully next session we will be able to get something on the books.
Great job, Jackie. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Moving on, the 988 report, Kelly. Is Kelly here? I don't
think Kelly is with us.
Okay. Equal Access Committee, Holly?
Sorry, I was trying to unmute myself. Nothing really additional to add except for that the event that is on May 11th, we would really love to see folks from the task force attend. Right now, I think we have about 33 registrants, but really the goal is for 911 professionals to listen to folks from disability communities to hear about how we can improve 911 for those specific populations. And so if 911 folks aren't present in the room, that does obviously present some challenges, and we've put a lot of work into trying to make this event successful for both, disability communities and 911 professionals. So we certainly hope to see people there. There is a link where you can RSVP, that tinyurl.com/townhall911. You can RSVP for the event. You can also just show up for the event if you want, but we're hoping to get a head count. So thanks.
Holly, thank you for that. Tina with the outage committee.
Joe's got his hand up.
Oh, I'm sorry, Joe. I didn't see it. Go ahead.
I was just going to say on the Equal Access Committee, I know they've been working very hard to pull this town hall together. We haven't had a lot of members of the 911 community, representatives of PSAPs and authority boards attending the Equal Access Committee. And I would hope that we have a better showing in support of the Equal Access community than we do at most of the meetings. I think it's important.
Thanks, Joe. I'm driving over from Grand Junction, so if I can come over 4 hours, y'all can come an hour or two, maybe. No shame involved.
And Holly, can you, for those of us who have never been to a town hall like this, can you just talk a little bit about what we can expect for those who would like to come but aren't sure what to expect?
Sure, this is Holly. So essentially, it will start out with a presentation. We are working with Sarah Shover over at South Metro. She's putting together a great presentation to talk about what people may not know about 911 centers, so we're going to give a virtual tour through a 911 center. Then we're going to turn into tips for making your 911 call successful. Things that the average person could benefit from knowing, but then also looking at it from a disability lens. Are there certain things as a caller who may not use 911 in the traditional sense that they should be thinking about when they call? So, let's say they are an individual who once dispatch sends emergency personnel, whether it be law enforcement, fire, or medical, on site, what type of accommodation may need to be available on site? And so having those callers know how to advocate for themselves and asks for those types of things prior is helpful to know. Once we do the presentation, we'll go into a panel session, and the panel will include both disability reps from different communities, as well as 911 professionals, and we'll ask them some different questions to share their feedback and experience, both as somebody calling 911 and as somebody accepting a 911 call. And then once the panel is over, we're going into another presentation that is technology related. And so we'll be talking about some of the current technologies that PSAPs are using and how those can benefit communities with disabilities, such as videos and PSAPs. Brad Flanagan from Pitkin 911 will be coming down to talk about how they're using videos in their PSAPs. We'll be talking about text to 911, showing community members where it is and isn't available in the state. And then we will talk a little bit about like the over-the-top apps like Smart 911, how communities with disabilities can put their information into apps and websites like that, so their information is delivered to PSAPs that accept those types of over-the-top information. And then we'll turn it over to an open Q&A session and a feedback session for people to just share from the audience their general feedback on maybe their 911 experiences and how they thought that it could be improved. And at the end, we will, Deanie from Douglas County has donated some gift cards. And so we'll have a drawing for all the people in attendance to win some gift cards. And yeah, so that is kind of what we envision for this. Depending on how many people are in the room, that may shift a little bit, but that is essentially the agenda that's been put together.
That sounds great. Thank you for outlining that for all of us. All right. Outage committee, Tina.
I don't have anything additional. I think Daryl might, if he's on.
I am. So you'll see, whoops, you go back just a minute.
Oh, yeah. Hold on. Maybe I can go back. There we go.
You scroll up a little bit. So I added some information about the outage investigations that we've done since last March, when the new outage investigation process went into effect, technically the end of March, so April of 2023. This shows the number of outage investigations that have been closed, the average duration of each investigation in days. You can see we're actually spending a little over 3 months on average on each investigation. And then some statistics about how many of those outages were confirmed to be basic emergency service outages under the commission staff's interpretation of the definition, and how many had apparent violations that were found as part of those investigations. I also wanted to point out, and I can go to the other document, we started creating, I don't know what I'm saying, I started creating a document that essentially summarizes many of the findings from these investigations. And the idea is, if there are findings that show up in more than one investigation, it's something that the 911 community and CenturyLink maybe should have a dialogue about, or at least watch for future developments to make sure that it's not an ongoing problem. So some examples of that, we've got delayed PSAP notifications showed up in several of the investigations, apparent delays in dispatching field technicians, scrolling. You can see that was the case in several of them, improper configuration or grooming of circuits. And because these have been brought up in these investigations, I know they're already on CenturyLink's radar, and I know CenturyLink has taken action on a number of these items, so not all of these necessarily require further discussion. But the idea is that if they have shown up in more than one investigation, then we should watch and make sure that they don't continue to show up in future investigations. This document is available from the 911 program webpage. Jennifer, I think if you want to put that link that you've got right there in the chat, that would be a way for people to reach it. There's also a section in there on global recommendations. And then there's another section of things that have not shown up in multiple investigations, but I'm tracking on there just in case they show up again. So there's kind of different sections to this document. This is going to be a living document that I will be adding to as I close staff-led investigations. I did provide this information to the EZNet users group yesterday because the users group represents all of the local 911 authorities, or at least the ones that want to participate in the users group. So it might be a good forum for having these discussions with CenturyLink going forward. And of course, the outage committee may just choose to discuss some of these items with CenturyLink as well. But I also wanted to make sure that the main task force was aware of this document. And if you go and look at this document, and you have any suggestions for improvement or ways that this could be more useful in the future, feel free to reach out to me and let me know. If anybody has any questions, I'd be happy to try to answer those.
All right, any questions for Daryl?
And I will add one more thing on the outages. So the ongoing rulemaking right now, the judge has kind of expanded, and she asked for additional comments on Rule 2143K, which is the section of rules that outlines the outage investigation process. And we did get some supplemental comments on that. So there may be some changes to the outage investigation process based on those comments, or maybe not. I don't know at this point what the judge will decide, but I did want to let people know that that has been kind of pulled into the rulemaking that's ongoing.
All right, any questions about that for Daryl? All right, Daryl, thank you for that. The Prepaid and Collections Committee, Jackie?
Good morning again. We have not met. I was kind of waiting for everybody to have, for us to look at ECAPs and see how that compares. I know we did some of that, but I'll get with Daryl and then we'll set up a meeting and see if there's any big differences.
EZNet Users Group.
I do not have anything else to add.
Moving on, the GIS Committee, Matt?
Nothing to add, thanks.
Colorado Public Safety Broadband Update, Kristen?
Yes, I have nothing to add, though I'm available for questions if there are any.
PSCS report, Deanie?
I have nothing additional to add.
Thanks for the kind words, Deanie.
You're very welcome. Oh, yeah. Well, I guess I could talk about that. Jennifer was amazing, and she did a really good job of explaining things to the radio group of people, which was a different set of people, a different audience for her. So I think you did an excellent job, and people commented to me on that.
Well, thank you very much. The topic was actually, what is Next Gen 911 anyway? And it was a high-level overview of what is Next Gen 911. And I know that PSCS videotaped it. I don't know if they're gonna give us the video or not, but my intention is to take that presentation and either post the video or record a webinar version and make it available on our task force website as a resource to everybody, because I know that there are a lot of people out there who feel like they should know what Next Gen is, but they're afraid to ask, either because they don't want to admit that they're not quite sure, or just because people don't want to ask. So hopefully that I'll be making that available as a resource here shortly. But thank you for your nice words.
You're welcome, and I hope they did. I'm pretty sure they're going to share that recording.
Great.
Thank you both. And the SWIC update, Amanda? And how about Connie for the Division of Fire Prevention and Control?
I have nothing to add on that. I just want to say thank you also to Jennifer for her presentation, and also to Jackie Marie for all of her work. It has been rather arduous here.
Thank you, Connie. And any updates on the Resource Center?
I can update that we have 30 responses now on the request for GIS information.
No questions there. We'll move on to the Rapid SOS update. Karen, are you on? All right. And the CCOA report, Kimberly.
Good morning. I have no update today for you.
Kimberly, this is Jennifer. Could I just say it was really nice to have CCOA as an exhibitor at the Colorado MENA APCO conference. And I don't know who did your shopping for the giveaways, but spot on. That was some really helpful things, and I think people really appreciated hearing about the CCOA at the conference. So thank you for doing that.
Hey, thanks for the feedback, Jennifer. It was a unique bag, and if anybody wants one and you didn't, let us know. We do have some left over.
Thank you. So just thanks to all the committees for working on all of these most important items. Do we have any additional comments about any of the items discussed or questions? Hearing none, that'll be the conclusion of the standing reports. We're breezing through this, so we'll just keep on going if everybody is okay with that. Old business. The NG 911 strategic plan draft. Kathy, do you have anything additional to add on that?
Not really. Our next meeting will be Monday for the committee at 1 o'clock. We are currently, I guess I do have something to add. I said not really, but I guess I do have something to add. We are currently going through the current document and reviewing all the red lines and the comments and pulling out information that we'd like to keep, leaving information that we don't want, and trying to develop the best plan that's going to fit the state. And again, our next meeting is Monday for the committee at 1 o'clock.
Thank you for that update. And Alex or Kimberly, do you have any additional on the Annie Alley problem?
This is Alex with Metza.
The main thing, just it was talked about a little bit briefly in the EZNet users group yesterday, but I think the main clarification we had wanted to make is that there are two very distinct issues. The NSI one is kind of known. People are familiar with the lack of getting a good callback number for those, or particular roaming, instances that caused that not to get carried over properly. The other issue was with a 000-911 direct trunk dial code that gets generated in Alley as a totally separate issue. In those instances, our main concern with that is in those instances, we have documented about 30 instances, and more than a third of those were instances of an actual caller who had dialed 911, not the trunk line, and had an active service subscription. So it would have been basically a roamer or something like that, possibly. But they know Alley was coming in with that because of the ANI code that was generated incorrectly. So like for an NSI roaming instance, you're still getting coordinates in Alley and a phase 1 tower location, phase 2 coordinates, potentially, even though you're not getting a good callback number. Our concern with this other instance that's less frequent for sure is that you're not getting any good location information for these callers. So if you can't actually make voice contact and get them to describe their location and give you a callback number, not only can you not call them back, but you don't know who to send or where to start looking for them, versus NSI roaming instances where you can start looking for them or send somebody if you get no response, even though you can't call them back. So just wanted to distinguish those two distinct issues. And for that separate second issue of the ANI code, for that, we had submitted DRs, basically treating it like a wireless NRF, even though I don't know if there's any such thing as that. That's kind of how we were treating them. And when we submitted DRs through Intrado, they directed us to contact Lumen 911 Repair directly for those. And we've reached out to Lumen, and I know they're looking into that, and we're just looking to hear back what they find for this instance of an ANI code that doesn't seem to represent what was the nature of the call, with some people actually calling 911.
This is Matt. Alex, are you able to share the Alley screen snip from that second type of call where we're getting no usable Alley?
Yeah, I could bring that up. Give me a second. Okay, I can share if you're ready.
Oh, now you're on mute, Alex. Go ahead. You should be able to share.
Let me know if you're seeing that.
So think of a taxonomy
Looks good.
something that is similar to a chart of accounts for financial statements.
So we're
Think of it as
interested in
cash equivalent.
action or information.
Yeah, so this is just one instance and that's exactly how all of those calls look. They come in that same way. I mean, all other than the date and time, those are the only things that change, but all the ANI text and Alley text is the same. So you're effectively getting nothing, versus an NSI call, you're getting all normal Alley minus a CBN with a 911 prefix for the area code. So that's the thing we're primarily concerned about. And yeah, if Lumen's on and can maybe give some insight or put it on their radar to dig into, we'd really appreciate the feedback.
So is it consistent that it's like that one's Nuclear? Is it consistent to be an out of normal regions? I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it, but I'm just saying that it's net or nuclear negative at a readout. I just wondering if there's a consistency in there.
The consistency that we've seen is it does seem to be in a particular area of our dispatch jurisdiction. But I just brought up another file spreadsheet on the screen that kind of shows our documentation of it. Depending on what the dispatcher was able to confirm via voice contact with the caller, kind of gave us a mixed bag as far as which carrier the person had, if they had dialed 911, if it was an emergency event, what their callback number was. But as far as Annie Alley, it is very consistent that when those come in, it shows up exactly like that. But the only other consistent pattern is the area from which these are originating, generally speaking, in the western half of Montrose County.
Did I see in the last document Rapid SOS was showing properly, and it was just the Annie Alley on the phone?
In some instances, I believe I have one. I want to say, I'm not sure which one it is. One of these has an actual, when the dispatchers do send it to me in their report, I'll have the rapid displayed. It doesn't always consistently display, but that's one way that they've potentially been able to get a callback number for some. The only other real details we can get on these are, I'm not sure how many people are familiar with the Intrado user portal. You have the 911 net option, and then just below that, there's an A911 CMP portal that'll give you advanced call details. And so long as your call taker has documented the exact time or close to, you can use that additional portal to look through everything out of Miami or Longmont to find the call. And then it gives you these additional details, E911 ingress transfer. Those are fairly consistent, whether it goes through Miami or Longmont. But you also don't get anything good. Typically it says restricted, and it's just got, the Annie failure and the number that Intrado sent it to, whether that was an automated process or that's actually getting answered at, a national call center to be transferred. I'm not sure.
It's strange to us that in the telephone company ID field of the Alley string, it's identified as an Annie failure, but yet in the remainder of the Alley string, it says caller dialed the trunk, not an Annie failure. And then we also see it marked as an Annie failure in the stats that Alex was just showing you previously. And Alex, we know that some of these were not mistaken 10-digit dials, right? Many of them were actual 911 dials.
Yes, I documented about a dozen of the 30 from last year that were confirmed they had dialed 911. And you can see here too, some were true emergencies, some had called 911 accidentally. That was kind of rare. Usually if they had called 911, it was for an emergency, but there are some instances where that was the case. I do have a lot of unconfirmed information on here. In some of those cases, it was a caller saying, sorry, I accidentally dialed. So I didn't consider that a true confirmation of them dialing 911 because they may have accidentally misdialed the trunk. So if that adds some clarification to the results.
I understood on the call yesterday that Kimberly mentioned that this might be happening because there was somebody roaming into an area where their home carrier didn't have a roaming agreement with the carrier that was receiving the call and routing it to the PSAP. Is there something in the area that these calls are coming from where there would be an unusual number of roamers, like some kind of like a resort or something, or attraction? And do you have carriers in that area, wireless carriers that are not major carriers, but small ones that they may just not have roaming agreements? The one who would be receiving the calls?
Matt can probably answer this better, but just a little bit that I can say is it is a very remote area that could have potential service issues. There's not many major carriers with towers out there, and with it being, close to Moab and the Western Colorado 4x4 region, it does, get a significant number of people. It's small rural community, so a lot of people that would be calling in from out there are potentially roaming. The reason I think that got brought up in the EZNet meeting is because at least initial things that we can see, we could see some potential that maybe NSI phones or roaming situations might be triggering, the handoff to not be done properly and then generate this code inadvertently. But we just don't know. We don't know if that is the cause or if there's some other cause.
Alex, this is Daryl. I missed it earlier. Does the alley show a cell tower location at least, or is it just nothing?
It does not. NSI and roaming calls do show phase 1 tower locations typically, or phase 2 coordinates, but these come in with just this generic alley Annie message along with the TN. So no usable info to kind of track down what tower or cell sector that could even be originating from.
Just based on the locations out there, I wonder if it's NNTC's, if these are hitting towers owned by NNTC, and maybe you could reach out to them and see if they are showing calls that match those times.
One other element is through the AMP or the CMP portal advanced. You can get all this additional detail, as well as a lot of significant detail, including, if I can scroll down, I don't know if you guys are still seeing this, but there is the ECR CDR details. And I don't know if this is the IP side. It's kind of above my technical understanding, but I did have our local Lumen 911 tech take a look, and he couldn't quite see exactly what this might be, but maybe somebody at Lumen or Entrado could look at these ECR CDR details and identify some, originating location out of all of this that would make sense. And each of the calls have these, if you can look up the exact one.
Is there any other commonality? Like, could these all be prepaid phones or Lifeline phones or something like that you would be able to tell from what you get?
I have no idea on that one.
Alex, really quick, this is Jody. Really quick, is this calls that are coming in as incorrect Annie alleys, or are they misroutes?
I would call it an incorrect alley Annie, even though it says it's not a failure, because the nature of the call isn't reflecting this direct dial of the trunk. They are generally, at least that I've seen and they've made contact with, they have all been in our jurisdiction, so they have been properly sent to the right PSAP, if that is what you're asking.
It is. And so when are you entering these in the 911 net in that, and they're being that, or?
Yes, I've been submitting DRs ever since we started getting these and saw this was an issue. And I think the first one, it kind of had the Entrado tech a little bit stumped, and they were trying to find the call the same way I think we can through the CMP advanced portal. But ultimately, since that first one, they've just been giving a generic reply that they can't research or resolve these and to contact Lumen directly. And I think I have about 30. In the far right here, you can see the 911 net transaction DRs I have for every single one, except one challenging instance to these is because you're entering it on the generic ANI code they all get, the 911 net portal doesn't allow you to submit a DR if there's already an open DR on a particular number. So you actually can't, in some occasions, you can't report them all. But I try to work with the Intrado text to fast process those and then just submit another one right away. And they've been pretty good at that. I think I've only missed one.
Matt, go ahead.
Yeah, to Daryl's question about NNTC wireless, we understand that NNTC is founding co-owner of the Rural Independent Network Alliance, which is a group of small rural wireless carriers and known as RINA, R-I-N-A, and they use Intrado for MSC services and so forth, phase 2 and all of that. So it's a fair question about a small rural cellular company perhaps not doing things to the same level of a major carrier, but we know that they're doing it through RINA and using Intrado. So and hard time thinking that that's the source of the problem. It could well be. To be honest, because of the nature of this second type of call that we've been discussing, we're unclear if this is even an EZNet problem or a carrier problem.
Well, that's the first time I've seen the message on there saying that the caller dialed the 7-digit trunk line.
Mm-hmm.
It makes me wonder if they're dialing 911, it's going to this, it's being picked up by a rural cell tower, and that cell tower is then transmitting it directly to a 7-digit trunk line instead of sending it through the EZNet.
Yeah, so in that area, we know that there are T-Mobile antennas on towers. There are ComNet roaming antennas on towers, and also not too far away, some AT&T antennas, in addition to NNTC's own towers and antennas. And we don't have clarity on a pattern of a source for these.
John Cummings from Charter. Have we looked back at the provided callback numbers to kind of trace those back to the carrier that owns those?
So in this case, John, if you can see on the screen, the callback number is 000-911-000.
Oh, I'm looking at the column where they've actually spoken with someone and gotten a callback number.
I understand. Okay, Alex, would you speak to that?
Yeah, it's been a while. I do vaguely remember that being an angle that we took early on when we were getting some of these. Some of the more recent ones we hadn't been getting, but I can't remember exactly. I know Intrado reached out. I believe Emily reached out a little bit on it, but I don't know if she successfully even made contact with any representatives from the carriers.
That was good.
I'm sorry. The last thing was I seem to recall also sending this to a Comtech technician at one point. And I could look that up through my old emails and find out who that was, but I just don't have that available at the moment.
Alex, this is Mary at Intrado. Oop, you mentioned Emily. Who are you working with at Intrado here?
Emily was the representative that was handling our area for our MSAGs we manage. I understand that she's not there anymore, and Carolyn has taken over her area for now. But yeah, she was great to work with, and was very responsive and would often try to help us, go outside the box on things where she could. So
sure. And Carolyn, last name
Jones. Sorry, Carolyn Jones.
No problem. I don't know what I can do, but I can follow up with Carolyn and see if she has any other contacts she's been working with.
So Carolyn is our DIU analyst, not in the wireless group, if you will.
Right, right. And it probably needs to be handed off to the wireless. So she'd be able to tell me who she's working with if we need to do that.
So if I'm understanding, when you have these callback numbers, that's when you've actually talked to the individual and been able to get that number?
That's correct. If the call was able to hold, it is an area where there's bad connection, so sometimes they can't be understood, which is another one of our concerns for these types of issues, because if you're not getting good contact to get that location information, you can't send anybody, even if they, state their issue, and then they disconnect and you have no callback number. So that's why it kind of really got on our radar as a major issue. But to answer your question, yes, when these numbers are listed here, that is because they were verbally communicated by the caller to the call taker.
So well, are you able to ask them what carrier they're with and if it's prepaid or postpaid, or some questions that might help isolate this? Or is it because they're emergency calls that's just not appropriate and you don't have the opportunity?
Yeah, you're exactly right. We were trying to coach when we were getting, a couple of these a month. We were trying to coach the call takers to say, hey, if you do get one of these, and you get the opportunity, try to ask them, what their carrier is, what their callback number is, if they have a number, and if they dialed 911 versus, accidentally dialing. We did try to do that, but like I said, with the connection and them being able to hear, and then obviously what you mentioned, sometimes it's just not appropriate in an actual true emergency situation to be asking those in addition to it. But I hope that answers the question.
So Alex and Matt, this is Jennifer, and I could be way, way off the mark here, but that piece of not an anti-failure, caller dialed 7-digit trunk, and I kind of wondered if maybe this is related to the issue of the cell carriers only having a certain number of 911 lines to route to. And if they have more than that simultaneously, they're routing to 7-digit numbers. And maybe those 7-digit numbers are those anti-alley or those 7-digit trunk lines in some cases. And maybe that's why we're seeing those. Like I said, I could be totally off the mark, but maybe that's something we should look at.
That could be possible. I don't think that's a bad theory at all. My only thought with that would be, and I flipped to another thing, is we've also been tracking these 911 prefix codes for NSI calls and shell records. And this spreadsheet I just refreshed this morning of every single shell record we have and every call that came in percentage wise with that 911 prefix. And as you can see, there are quite a few for each carrier additional lines reserved that have not taken any calls and are available to. I didn't really notice any off the top of my head, trying to answer your question, where they could have potentially been maxed out, at least in the last 30 days of this that report covers. Verizon could be one. It did have one extra number with none, but every single other line they had, at least labeled Verizon in the MSAG, had significantly more calls than others and seemed pretty full up. So that could be a thing. But that being said, we do see from some of the confirmations on these calls that some were from carriers that definitely have plenty of room. So just additional information to chew on there.
Great. And the last thing, and I'm bummed that Kimberly left, but Jeff was wondering what the frequency was of these. And I think there's something to that, smaller area with smaller cell carriers, but I know Lita's been having this issue too, and they have a lot more of a populated area. So can you give some sort of estimate as to how frequent this problem is for Wesco or your other centers?
Yeah, I mean, with the NSI type calls, we're seeing it at about 15% of calls, district, like our whole jurisdiction wide. With these 00911 calls, we only get a couple a month, 2 to 3. They kind of hit in spurts sometimes, which isn't a lot. But my concern is, and I have this up on the screen, Nucleonatarita shell records, are processing just in the last 30 days. They only really processed 31 bids, which there may be a couple bids per call. So you're looking at maybe a dozen calls or so there. And if we're getting about 2 a month that are this thing that, is potentially a sixth of your calls for that small locality. So it could be a bigger issue. It's just affecting such a small population that it appears very small in the grand scheme of things.
We're like kind of the rest of the state. Anything in the rest of the state? Anything in the rest of the state?
I don't know, is anybody seeing this elsewhere?
I have not seen it in Grand Junction. Nobody's told me about any alley problems, anything that look like that.
Just to comment in on that, I haven't seen anybody else in Colorado talking about this. I have seen a couple of other instances just nationally through APCO forums and things like that. Dallas, Fort Worth is one particular area where they've noticed an uptick in these in the last couple of years, or the last year or so. They didn't really give me much information. I did pass that on to Jennifer yesterday. It was kind of a brief email from Cody Shepard out of Dallas, Texas. That was the first I'd seen really somebody else have this exact issue and wondering about it and concerned that it was actually from callers that had not dialed a direct trunk. So it's definitely not common, I don't think, here in Colorado, but there are other instances. I don't know if it might be good for those other, or for Lumen, if they're wider and actually serving those areas as well, maybe can get additional details from those communities that are experiencing these calls as well.
And this is Jody. I have a team of supervisors on at my agency that enter the incorrect anti-alleys, but I don't have them specifically looking for that 911-000. So I'll have them start looking for that. So I don't know if we've gotten any here in Denver.
One interesting thing too, just in if you do have teams that start or personnel that can be looking at these things, getting the exact call time information is really important because these do not show up in the standard alley audit query. So you can't query this code and pull up any calls, even if one has happened and you know the exact time. You have to use the advanced portal to find those. So that's the other caveat I would say to if for any other agencies that want to try to start tracking these, they can be a little slippery in that regard.
I'm sorry, you may have already addressed this, but have you spoken with the telcos? Is this nuclear not treated? Do they have wireless or is that just landline?
They do have wireless as well as landline.
Have you checked with any of them and talked with them and asked them to make sure their towers or they're configured correctly, their equipment is configured correctly, and that sort of thing?
We haven't exactly stirred that pot just because our primary concern is we haven't identified exactly what party would be responsible. Like Matt mentioned earlier, we're not exactly sure if this is carrier side or if it's a Lumen BSP side, Intrado handing off. Intrado says they can't look into it. I don't think that necessarily excludes Intrado from being a part of the breakdown, but until we know where that is, we haven't really wanted to kind of stir NNTC, at least in my understanding. Maybe Matt can comment in. It's very rural and the technical expertise is a lot more limited out there to even probably being understanding what we're talking about in this regard, since it's a very kind of nuanced and complex issue.
Well, if you guys are looking at your records for zeros or ones, one of the common ones that we put in our filters that says it wasn't misrouted, there was something that happened. So if you're looking at your history, look for 4 ones or 4 zeros, those are typical. like at 911-000, we put that as a CPE setting. So if it doesn't have an alley, we will populate that in CPE itself. So that comes with equipment and stuff, but. So if you're looking, look for both.
Yeah, we've been tracking both of those instances separately. Like, I don't know if you can see at the very top up here, all those ones that have 911 as the area code prefix, we can see those, and those do show up in the alley audit query. So when you get a call like that, you can look up the shell record, you can see all the details, you can get the tower address, the phase 2 coordinates, anything like that related to those calls with the, you know, supplemented 7 digits after the area code. I don't know if that's what you're mentioning.
Because if you don't have a record, this is since 40 years we've been doing this on CPD, we'll just populate it with ones or zeros often. And just so that when they do the alley bid of all ones or all zeros, we know we have an idea what it is.
Gotcha. Okay. I haven't seen any, at least in the alley audit query or anywhere I've been able to see that have all zeros or all ones.
That would be nice. That your example of 000-911-0 and 4 zeros, that could be something typed in STD, or it could be coming from actual call. I don't know that. When you pull up that scan with all the course records, or post records there, does that show that same phone number?
I'm sorry, is it?
Alex,
Can you
I think
repeat
you
that one
just
more time, Kevin?
Do you see the 911-0000 in that record?
scroll down a little bit, Alex. Oh,
Where the number's coming from. There it is. It's in there. Okay. So that is coming from Intrado. So we did not populate that with the CPE.
Gotcha. Okay. Thank you. Yeah, it's Chinese to me, Kevin. So I appreciate your insight there.
you know, Kevin, we've looked through documentation that we've received over the years from CenturyLink, Lumen, and elsewhere about those various ANIs as codes for certain circumstances, and this one just doesn't match anything that we've been able to find.
I was just wondering where it came from. So that number is, since it came from Intrado, I'm not saying it originated with them, but it came from them.
Yeah.
Good search there.
Well, I didn't want to take up too much of everyone's time, but I hope that kind of covers the gist of everything. And our main real endpoint is that, you know, we've gone as far as we've, you know, at least that we can think of in trying to troubleshoot this, and then through Intrado being directed to Lumen. So that's kind of our last, you know, at least where we're at is, you know, getting a response from Lumen. Maybe Lumen can coordinate with Intrado to find out more on this and get back to us. But I think that would be our starting point to, you know, if it's identified as this is a carrier issue, then, you know, then we could start reaching out to NNTC and seeing, you know, exploring their equipment and seeing if it's happening on their end prior to Intrado getting it.
Do you have recent ones? And the reason I ask is because when it hits our routers, it's this big, huge list of everybody that dials 911. So we have to go from the most current to the oldest, and if it's a month old, I mean, there's going to be thousands of records going to find it. I was wondering if you have a recent one. And have you called in the ticket to the test center with a ticket number?
I'm sorry, it's a little hard to hear you, but for the first part of your question, I don't have any recent, more recent than January 18th is the most recent, whether that's our dispatcher is not reporting them, and there's no way to query them. So I'm not able to find any more recent, at least through the methods we have available to us. I could probably try, you know, sweeping the advanced portal for that, to see if there were any that just didn't get reported by the dispatchers, but I'm not sure if we have any available.
Cheryl says she has Verizon. I think we did see your chat, Cheryl. Thank you.
Yes.
Matt and Alex, if you don't have anything else to share, I'll turn it back to Jody.
This is Matt. I think the takeaway is for folks to start watching for these, especially because they won't show up in an alley audit query in 911 net, and research them through the portal.
Matt. Okay. So I'm not sure what the lunch situation looks like over there in person. So are you all wanting to grab some lunch over there and then come back? Do we want to just continue through and wrap up new business? But I don't want to hold up anybody from lunch because I get hangry. So
Jackie, I'm sorry. We're good whenever. Okay. She says the food is here, and if you want to take a break, we can and come back. And if you want to keep going, that's up to you as chair.
You know what, if it's there, then let's just take, you know, what, 10, 15 minutes. And I don't know if you want to set a timer for about 15 minutes and then everybody come on back at 11:40. And then we can have some lunch and continue on with new business.
Okay. 15 minutes.
All right. Let's all let's come back at 11:40.
So you guys are going to hear conversation because I don't have any way to mute the room.
At the keyboard, you could probably.
Thanks for that.
I know, right?
Or is that your legal display mouse over?
What's that?
You've got the keyboard, so you can hit mute on it.
Oh, I haven't. Well, that's not mine. Yeah. These computers are muted. It's the speakers in the room I'm not having.
They're signed in separately.
Here we go. I think maybe now we're muted.
That would just mute the speakers. I think you're gonna wanna use the mouse to click the mute button. Now we can't hear anybody else.
My exactly is already muted.
Right.
I know. Oh, I see.
Somebody
All right, Jennifer, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Can you hear us now?
I can, yes. All right, so this is Jody just reconvening at 11:40. Thanks for all the great discussion on old business. Moving on to new business. So let's start off with Jennifer discussing 911 representatives.
Okay, well, first I see that I'm the only one bringing up new business, and I just want to reiterate that this is a collaborative group and other people can bring up business too, okay? But the first order of business is that life happens. Our bylaws say that if a representative misses 2 meetings in a short or in a time period, then they have to go before the task force and ask to be revoted back on. So again, life happens and we totally understand that, but we do need to ask Kathy, who's in the room, Kathy Rayleigh, if she would like to continue to be on the task force, and if so, then we need to, the task force needs to vote her back on. So I caught her with her mouth full, sorry about that. I seem to have a talent for that today. Sorry, Kathy.
Were you a server?
It's okay.
Apparently.
I'm sorry, what'd you say?
I asked her if she was a server.
Oh, yeah. Yes, I do apologize to everybody. I missed January's and March's meeting in January. I had a kickoff meeting that happened at the same time for our new recording solution. And in March, my husband had surgery. So that was the reason for missing the March meeting. I would like to continue to be on the committee. And so if you are also inclined to vote me back in, that would be great. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Kathy. So I will go ahead and move for a motion to keep Kathy on as a 911 representative.
This is Jackie Dadcom, I move.
Okay, in a second.
Second.
I was.
Thank you. All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none. Okay, so moved. We'll keep Kathy on. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Welcome back. Okay, the second thing on here is that our 988 provider is going to change. And this information came to me in a news article. So I'm going to pull that up. It's also in our public folder for this meeting. It's just taking me a minute to get back into it.
Jennifer, they just sent one out, I think, to the state of Colorado too.
Oh, good.
An email I just got today.
Oh, well, that's great. Maybe that's in my email too.
I can
You
send
might
it.
be able to give more information than I can at this
It's
moment.
very limited. I can send it to you.
Yeah, that'd be great. Okay, let me get back into Zoom and share the screen here. So the news article said that Rocky Mountain Crisis Partners will no longer be the 988 provider in Colorado after its contract is scheduled to end on June 30th. And according to this article, the Colorado Behavioral Health Administration has not released information about it until it finalizes the agreement. Jackie just said that they sent out an email about it. Did the email say who's going to take over?
It doesn't really, but I just send it to you.
Okay. Thank you for that. So obviously we don't have a whole lot of information about who's going to take over, but I wanted to make sure that this community was aware that that will be changing, which is a shame because I know that Rocky Mountain Crisis Partners has done a lot of work in outreach to the 911 community and working on ways to be successful. So we will keep you posted as that goes forward. All right, I'm just looking. Oh, yeah, Madison from Rocky Mountain Crisis Partners just sent that out. So I will make sure you guys get that information as well. Does anybody have any questions? Okay.
Maybe after, not right now, obviously, but since Kelly Bowman wasn't able to make the meeting today, maybe we can reach out to her and try to get more information next meeting.
We have to do that. The other piece of new business that I had on here was star codes for closed PSAPs. So every month I go into Entrada's system to pull the call stats for wireless distribution. And in that, I noticed that Clear Creek County's PSAP was continuing to have calls showing as processing through them. And then one in Cheyenne County, which hasn't had a PSAP in a while. So I reached out to CenturyLink and Entrado, and come to find out that all of those calls were actually transferred into the PSAP by star codes from other PSAPs. So I'm trying to get the word out, and I will put this out in other news as well. But for those of you who are running PSAPs, wherever you keep your list of star codes, please cross out Clear Creek County and refer to JEFCOM instead. And if you have Cheyenne County in your star codes, please cross that out and refer to Kit Carson County star code instead. Joe, you got your hand up.
And Intrado or CenturyLink, don't know which one it would be, but can they just make those star codes forward to the new PSAP for a period of time until people adapt?
I was wondering if they automatically default route anyway. Another overflow or default, because there's no answer, can't receive calls if it doesn't have a network.
I think eventually the call went to JEFCOM,
Should be.
but it would have been delayed as it went through that alternate route process.
It wouldn't be instantaneous because there's no, it can't receive calls. That router's not for call counting purposes, because that would make a difference. Yeah, would it be then counted twice if we counted it as a Kit Carson call? Okay. Because that might make a difference to the call counts for wireless prepaid distribution.
We've checked and tried all that and see.
Okay.
Oh, thanks, Jody, for helping out with that. And I'll put this in the minutes of this call as well.
I just put in the chat, if anybody didn't hear that, for Cheyenne County, replace it with Kit Carson, and then for county, replace it with JEFCOM.
Awesome.
And if there's no additional on that.
No, and I did have one thing that I did not put on the agenda, but if I could have a moment, Jody. Sorry, I got you with your mouth full too.
Absolutely.
With their mouth. It's a talent. I had the opportunity to go to Colorado with the absent and also where I'd like to be. And I had enough people come up and ask questions that I feel like it needs to be addressed in this group. And I do not want to tag along to Jackie in the legislative committee, because that's Jackie's space and she deserves to have her own conversation there. But I did want to address a couple of things that was made clear to me in the course of conversations over last week. And one is that the information that some of the people in our 911 community had from other people in our 911 community about what the bills were doing and what the state's intentions are is not correct. And so I want to state in this forum, as I did at the radio summit, that there is no behind-the-scenes plan at the state 911 program to take over 911 in Colorado. There is no intention on my part or Daryl's part to take away local control of 911 in Colorado. What we are very committed to.
Hey, Jennifer. Sorry to interrupt. I don't know where the microphones are in that room, but all we're getting is rustling paper and chewing. So if the folks in the room, if they have microphones nearby, if they could maybe point them away.
Or stop rustling paper for a minute and sorry.
The potato chips are crunchy.
Yeah.
Well, I was just about to say something, but I had to make sure it wasn't me.
Okay, well, I'll try again. There's no behind the scenes plan to take away local control from 911 in Colorado. And we have no intentions at the state 911 program to change local control from 911 in Colorado. Everything we do at the state 911 program is open and transparent. And everything we operate in is in open forums like this one, and in the EZNet users group, and in the legislative committee, and all of our wonderful committees that get work done here at the task force. So I just want to set that clear because, again, it was made clear to me in the course of several conversations that someone has been spreading the idea around that 911, like we're trying to take over 911 in Colorado. And that is not the case. However, I will continue to create opportunities for conversation and dialogue at the state level. Task force. Now it's not me making noise. The conversations that happened, for example, in the last 30 minutes about the NSI phones, those are the kinds of conversations that we need to have at the state level so that we can all learn from each other and try to solve problems together. And I appreciate those conversations. I appreciate the conversations that happen at the EZNet users group. I especially appreciate the conversations that happen in the legislative committee because nowhere in the 911 community are people afraid to not speak their mind. And I really appreciate that. We are stronger when we can come to the table and disagree with each other respectfully and continue to stay in dialogue in an open forum. That is a value to me of the legislative committee, of the EZNet users group, of the task force. And when we disagree, please, let's continue to let it be in open forums like this. And let's make sure that if there are people or entities out there that desire to have those conversations in the shadows, you should question why they're having those conversations in the shadows. Because the rest of us are doing it in an open forum meeting where we can continue to find solutions together to strengthen 911 in Colorado. So I appreciate being part of that. I appreciate this task force. I appreciate the EZNet users group, the GIS committee, the legislative committee, and all the other places where we come together in 911 to solve the problems that we're all facing as a state. Thank you.
Thank you, Jennifer. Very well stated. I appreciate you for speaking up about that. So we're at the open discussion now. So I'll go ahead and open up the floor for any additional open discussion items.
This is Jackie. I just wanted to thank Jennifer for putting that so succinctly. And one of my main points that I don't think I got to earlier was that the committee was put at in misinformation about what the committee was doing and how transparent the committee was and how available the committee was. And that's really was more my focus, you know, that these people on this committee show up out of their day. And as we saw, someone else on their chat is on console answering phone calls. These people work hard and participate in these committees. And I really appreciate that fact. And I guess my ire gets up when someone tries to diminish that work. Thank you.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to back up on for the 988 provider, the Rocky Mountain provider. Have they ever produced any stats, or is there anything out there that somebody can look at? Does anybody know?
So this is Daryl. I've been tracking the 988 Enterprise Board, and they do make reports to the Enterprise Board. I'm not sure. I'm guessing those stats are available on the Enterprise Board's website. You can see if I can find it. As they Rocky Mountain.
We're fine in the room. There's a ringtone.
Apparently there is a tsunami coming. Rocky Mountain Crisis Partners is a contractor to the 988 Enterprise Board. So that's why they make reports to the Enterprise Board.
Freak me out.
Yeah, that's kind of.
All right, this is Jody. Do we have any other open discussion items? Comments, questions, concerns?
This is Daryl, I've got the link to the Enterprise, the 988 Enterprise, which has meeting documents in it, which may contain the stats that Patty was asking about, so I will message that to Jennifer so she can put it in the chat.
You can put it in the chat.
Except I'm not.
Oh, you're not in it.
I'm
Yeah,
not
we'll get it in the chat.
There you go.
All right, great, thank you. Okay. All right, if we have nothing else, a couple of announcements. Our next meeting will be, our next official meeting will be July 11th in Routt County. But again, in-person and virtual hybrid meeting. Love to see you all there, or as many of us as possible there, if not online. And also upcoming is the June Lunch and Learn. I was able to secure Versaterm to do a presentation on Spider Tech. June Lunch and Learn, and I think that is June 13th.
Yeah, it's
June 13th. Perfect. And so I encourage everyone to attend that. We have been using the Spider Tech technology in terms of the responses, and so far it's pretty cool. So we'll talk a little bit more about that, obviously, in the Lunch and Learn, but they'll have a whole presentation on it. So,
And Jody, what's Spider Tech?
Yeah, where's that one at?
Lunch and Learn is virtual.
Okay.
What's Spider Tech?
So Spider Tech is an automatic messaging system that sends out, we're actually using it alongside DPD, Denver Police. And basically it sends out automatic messaging to the caller, sends them a survey asking about their experience with their call. Was the communication personnel professional? Were they happy with the officer? Were they happy with the response time? A number of questions that they get after their call to basically give them an opportunity to offer feedback. We get feedback every single day on calls. It's been a great opportunity for us to be able to capture when our team does really great work. Obviously, we're not as quite interested in the police responses, but anything that pertains to our team, it's been very beneficial. We've been able to capture some really good calls that we wouldn't have been able to capture otherwise, and then also address some concerns that may come up. So it's been, I'm enjoying it, and we've had it for a few months now, so so far so good. Michael.
Yeah, thanks. We also use a similar platform called Power Engage, formerly called QHIT. Same thing, text-based surveys, but if anybody was interested, a couple of data points that may keep you or accelerate your interest in a platform like that. One, it's very cheap. Two, you get about a 50% return rate. And of the 50% return rate, which is extremely high, 83%, I think is our current average, is positive in nature. So just some really cheap but good beneficial information that comes right back to you.
All right, this is Jody. Thank you for that, Michael. And I'm unfamiliar with that platform, but I would like to see it. One of the other things that I can add for the service that we're using is that also offer the caller updates all the way throughout, whether or not police were dispatched or whether or not, it doesn't go into so much detail that they, explain that somebody was arrested, but it keeps them updated throughout that officers responded and they found nothing, or they found something, or whatever whatever the happened with the call, all the way through to the point of way past our responsibility as far as 911 goes, but it goes all the way into that a detective has been assigned to your call and keeps them updated throughout the entire lifetime of their call. So it's pretty neat stuff.
That's what if people needed additional justification or outside of the comm center, that it follows through, gives them their assigned case number, their assigned detective, follows it through the life of the call if it's set up that way.
Right, exactly. So I'm so excited for that. Again, that's June 13th, so at noon. Let me go through the chat to make sure we didn't miss anything. See anything? Does anyone else have anything else for the good of the order? All right. Thank you all for all the work you're doing for the state of 911 in Colorado. I'm proud to be a part of this group, as always. If we have no further business, I'll go ahead and ask for a motion to adjourn.
Kathy moves.
Just seconds.
Okay, so moved. We'll go ahead and adjourn the meeting at 12:02.
Take care, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody.
Bye in the cloud.